Alright, so one of the things I like about these Victory motorcycles is they have put some thought into the engineering. A lot of the wiring is actually up in the headlight here. And we're just going to pull these couple of screws out and have a look inside. Alright, let's take a look inside. Obviously lots of good stuff in here. Lots of plug-and-play things, which I'm not sure what that particular one's for. Actually, there's all kinds of wiring in here. So the fun part now is what do I plug that voltmeter into? Okay, so inside these Victory headlights are all kinds of wiring harnesses for your speedometer, your tach, your lights, etc. Now there's also a few in here that aren't connected to anything. And I'm really hoping I can tie into one of those. So right now I have the ignition off, so there's no power in here. And I'm just going to give this a quick test. So I've got what seems to be a ground because it's black. Okay, I got nothing, and I got nothing. And that's actually good. You do not want to tie into a circuit that is live all the time, or else your voltmeter is going to be reading all the time and eventually kill your battery. So, let's turn the ignition on. So in here, got this harness. I got a live one there, so that's the yellow wire in this harness. Now if I also ground here and tie into this one, jam that in there. I got a live one here. So this wire and these other two wires I can tie into for this. Now, does that actually make the voltmeter work? Well, let's take a look here. So unfortunately my battery is kind of dead here, so I had to hook it up to a battery pack. But let's see if this wiring works. That's why you're hearing that strange clicking, is it's the power pack. So there's the backlighting. And well, it's thinking hard. I'm not sure exactly what it's doing there. Okay, so billion-dollar question. How do we splice into those things? Well, I picked these guys up here. And what they are is they allow you to splice into a live wire without cutting it. So you feed in your one wire in this way. There's two holes in each end. This one's blocked. You feed your cut wire into this hole and you feed your live wire through, and then you push this thing down. It connects into both wires and then you clamp it shut. So in theory, that's how it's supposed to work. Now comes the fun part. Well, I've got to actually expose a little more wire before I do this here. Put the okay. Those little clips don't seem to like to stay closed terribly well. I will, however, tape these all up when I'm done. Okay. Let's see what we got here now. All right, so I'm just going to turn the bike on here without the power pack. Okay, well, it's giving me a reading. I'm going to guess the bike is below 8 volts. Let's hook up the power pack and see what happens. Okay, so power pack's on. Let's turn the bike on. So every time the power pack clicks, it resets it, which is rather annoying, to be honest. But it is working. Turn the power pack off. I think we'll get a reading once I charge up the battery. There it goes. So it's giving me a reading. It's low. I know it's going to be, but that's okay. So on the back of this thing, there's a little button. I can get green, blue, kind of a white, yellow, greenish, pink, purple, nothing, red. Very cool. All right, looks like she works. All right, so now that we know that that works, I don't trust these little plastic things, although they are a very handy way to splice into wires. So let's give them a couple of rounds of electrical tape. Now, obviously I've got some exposed wires here. These will be exposed to the elements somewhat. So we're going to want to give them just a little bit of protection here. I don't have any of the fancy wrap things, but I do have a nice fresh roll of electrical tape. There we go. She's all tidied up there. Now what I gotta do is make sure I can get that headlight cover back on without destroying all these wires. Now I gotta make sure they don't get pinched, because that would be very, very bad. There we go. So I've been letting this charge for just a couple minutes here, and my voltmeter's reading, I don't know, 12.5, call it, but it's steady. So I guess because the battery was so dead, it was fluctuating. Now that it's got a little bit of charge, it's stabilized. All right, so I've had the charger on it for a little bit here. It's got some charge. Let's just see what we got here. So voltmeter says close to 12. So now that it's running, it's saying below 12, so that's obviously not good. Alright, so now we gotta figure out what's going on here. We're losing it somewhere. Alright, so here's something strange. I can flash my high beams using this, or I can flip them on. Now when I flash my high beams and hold them on, it draws a little power out of the system, but I can still handle it. Now when I turn the high beams on, the voltmeter shuts off. So whatever circuit I tied into turns off when I put the high beams on. Very strange. As soon as I turn it off, all goes back to normal. So I'm not sure what circuit I tied into, but it's got something to do with the high beams. Might be a driving light one where the driving lights shut off when you turn your high beams on. Something along those lines. probably to prevent too much draw on the system.